wearing a shimmering blue dress and my hair in loose waves. It was my engagement party, bubbling with joy until my sister decided to speak. Anna, my sister, soft curls, rosy cheeks, stood up. She had a confident glint, and her voice sliced through the air, more lethal than any toast. "I'm expecting... and it's Mark's," she announced. Disbelief turned the once joyful room into a sea of gasps, eyes darting between us like startled fish. My heart raced, louder than the uncomfortable whispers around us. I scanned the room, desperately seeking Mark's eyes. Would he deny it? Mark stood there, eyes downcast, drenched in a paleness that denounced his guilt clearer than words ever could. Everything felt slowed down. The warmth of pinks and golds had faded, leaving only the stark reality of betrayal. Anna's words twisted inside me like a knife. She was my sister, bearer of shared dreams. Now this new reality spread between us. My hand trembled. Champagne spilling onto my dress. The warmth had drained from everything. Even the air seemed colder now. Was this a power play for her? And Mark, the man I thought I knew, now blank and distant, like a stranger wearing his face. I whispered, "Why?" into the dense silence, my quiet question just another whisper lost amongst the crowd of disbelief and tension. I sank into a nearby chair, the world a blur of faces and muffled chatter around me. Everything felt surreal, a step outside reality, so. Friends and family approached cautiously, their murmurs of "I'm sorry" wrapping around me like a threadbare blanket against the cold truth. Anna tried to reach out, her hand faltering midway, our shared history now a fragile thread between her fingers and my shoulder. Mark attempted a pathetic excuse, words stammering as they fell pathetically into the void of my trust in him. I stood abruptly, pushing past murmuring faces. I needed air, space, anything but the suffocating presence of their betrayal. Outside, cold night air hit like reality, fresh and stinging. I stood there, head tilted back, trying to breathe again. The ambient noise of the city felt like a lullaby compared to the earlier chaos. I relished the solitude, my thoughts a tangled mess. A text from Mark buzzed gently in my pocket. A futile cry for a chance to explain. I couldn't face his lies yet. Suddenly, Anna appeared outside too, softly calling my name. Her voice trembling, waves of guilt crashing against her fragile resolve. Anna's tears mirrored the brokenness in my soul, yet I couldn't find solace in her remorse. This wound was too raw to heal. As I turned to leave, a sudden quiet fell between us, a silence heavy with unsaid apologies and shattered dreams. I wandered down the street, steps echoing softly in the night. Each stride seemed to lead further from my past into the unknown future. Passing a familiar coffee shop, memories slid back. A chance meeting with Mark, laughter over shared stories. A time before betrayal stained everything. I sank onto a bench under the streetlight, letting exhaustion take me. My heart ached, a heavy reminder of a reality that couldn't be undone. A passerby hesitated, offering a hesitant, "Are you okay?" I managed a weak nod, their concern a drop in the ocean of my turmoil. Tears finally spilled over, silent and unchecked. Maybe this was how I would cleanse the hurt, to lay it bare under the quiet sky. I remembered childhood evenings when Anna and I would share secrets under the stars. Those memories felt like another life now. Time seemed to stretch, pulling at my edges. I realized dawn was approaching, the horizon hinting softly at an inevitable new beginning. Back at the party's edge, I saw Anna standing alone, her figure small and lost. I knew we both had rebuilding to do, separately. Finally, I turned, resolute to face the future, ready to walk the path that stretched unknowably ahead, one step at a time. The living room felt suffocating as my mom's hand shook on my shoulder. Her eyes searched mine in a silent plea for forgiveness. Her murmured apology was a cruel comfort. Mark sat stiff across from me, his face a mask of regret. His mouth opened, but silence choked his words. I couldn't meet his eyes. I just needed him to stop. Anna, once my sister in all but blood, now felt like a stranger. Her eyes, empty of emotion, mirrored the void growing inside me. Guests pretended not to notice. The party's chatter faded as people subtly excused themselves. Their departure was a dim reality check, hammering home the permanence of this night's revelations. Betrayal needed more than acceptance. I couldn't allow their actions to slink away into the shadows. "We need to talk," my voice quivered, demanding a halt to their escape. The room, once vibrant with celebration, now stifled any joy. It had become an arena for the confrontation that loomed over us like a winter storm. "Why?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Every word seemed to echo, bouncing off Mark and Anna, leaving me raw and exposed. Mark's tongue tripped over excuses, as if the truth were a foreign language. His guilt was visible, plastered like cracks across his weary features. Anna remained silent, her vacant stare almost like a shield she wore against the guilt she refused to acknowledge. It was maddening. Desperation clawed at my chest. I needed them to see the scars they'd etched onto my life. "Explain," I demanded, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Anna's soft voice finally broke the tension. "We never meant for this to happen." Her words hung lifeless, lacking the apology they needed to carry. Mark admitted it started as a mistake, but grew beyond control. His candor was too little, too late. Each word was a heavy blow landing on what remained of my trust. Their indifference to my crushed reality felt like a slap. The room cooled, growing distant even as I stood glued to the floor, absorbing their excuses. We stood in silent turmoil, the echoes of our lives together fading into history. I ached to rewind time, to stitch back what was ripped so carelessly. Silence was our loudest enemy, pressing against our ears, squeezing hearts until tears threatened to flow. I couldn't even breathe through the bitter air. "What now?" I asked, inhaling sharp uncertainty. The weight of the truth held us suspended in a standoff that had no clear path forward. Mark muttered about making amends, trying to forge bridges from ashes. But his words barely held substance, flittering away like smoke. Anna whispered plans to salvage the remains, a faint hope stitched to her guarded words. For a moment, sincerity wavered through her guarded repression. I faced them both, feeling my heart harden. They offered solutions like spackling over deep cracks. Did they really believe it was that easy? A hollow acceptance began its slow creep. Our lives had irreversibly shifted. The bridge to the past was broken. I had to lead my heart away from dreams to real life. Mark's attempt to touch my shoulder jolted me. "Don't," I warned, the raw edges of my heart flinching from his familiar reach. Anna finally looked me in the eye, her past defenses crumbling. There it was, a chink in her armor, a shared acknowledgement of this broken line between us. An unexpected calm blanketed us as words found their place. My hurt wouldn't vanish, but clarity lay in the absence of more secrets. The echoes of betrayal ebbed, leaving behind a hollow stillness. They knew the depth of their impact, and I saw the heaviness in their stance. "I need space," I declared, the finality in my voice surprising even me. It was time to walk away, let time and distance try to heal. Walking out, the night's silence felt like a companion, wrapping me in solitude. The truth remained heavy, but I needed room to rediscover myself. Stepping into the night, a slight chill prickled my skin. I felt alone, but strangely comforted by the stars' distant glow. They had witnessed this all. A deep breath grounded me. I needed strength to rebuild the pieces shattered. Each exhale carried a sliver of the burden away into the starlit sky. I realized strength lay not in undoing, but in moving forward. This would become a part of me, not the whole of my existence. With time, I knew I'd find closure. The world quietly spun on as my heart started its slow, inevitable mend. I stood on the carpet's edge, my feet frozen as Anna approached, her voice both soothing and heartbreaking. My head throbbed with the truth I couldn't handle. Anna's voice trembled as she spoke, her gaze unsteady. I clung to denial, refusing to let the inevitable words sink in. Trying to absorb the blow, I laughed bitterly, questioning how something so devastating just happened, my heart torn between anger and disbelief. Mark shuffled closer, lips parted in apology. His face, etched with regret, failed to sway the storm building within me. I cut him off, words slipping out like a knife. I needed time, space, anything but his rehearsed apologies. For a second, silence draped over us, a chasm of unspoken truths. I wavered at the edge of acceptance. Denial fought with reality as a small part of me hoped to rewind this nightmare. I clung to that impossible wish. Anna's steady eyes held the weight of truth. A secret guilt bound her and Mark together, stronger than words. In that moment, I realized I had to confront the truth, but the fear of facing it left me paralyzed, not ready yet. I turned away, struggling with a choice too hard to face. It felt as if my world had shattered, yet it clung together by my denial. I sought refuge in the routine of making coffee, a calm facade masking the turbulence inside me. Numbly, I watched the steam rise, reminding me of fleeting dreams. Reality had somehow derailed, and I was grasping at fading clouds. The phone buzzed, a sudden jolt of anticipation and anxiety. Could holding on to hope be more painful than letting go? I hesitated to answer, fearing the fracture either way. My silence equaled cowardice, but my heart screamed for relief. I finally answered, my voice a fragile whisper. "Hello?" The pause on the other end was deafening. An orchestra of dread played in my mind. My mother's voice echoed through, bringing childhood comfort, yet guilt clouded that warmth, as I hadn't told her anything yet. I couldn't bring myself to voice what shattered me. Instead, we spoke of mundane things, a temporary illusion of normalcy. The laughter we shared felt like a distant echo. I longed for it to nestle back into my life, whole and untouched. A sudden silence fell between us, as if she sensed something deeper. I quickly filled it with empty reassurances. Hanging up left a void. The house echoed with alien quiet, each room holding memories of a life paused mid-frame. Anna's reflection caught my eye in the hallway mirror, her figure tense, wrapped in invisible chains of shared guilt. Mark appeared behind her, his posture slumped under accusations unspoken. This silent tableau thickened my air, making it hard to breathe. A rush of defiant strength filled me. Denial couldn't protect me anymore. It was time to confront them, no matter how painful. I stood before them, voice quavering but strong, asking the question that could shatter everything or begin to mend it. Anna's eyes filled with tears, but her confession was quiet, an admission of their collective failure and betrayal. Mark nodded, his silence affirming the choices he couldn't take back. The walls seemed to close in on my sense of reality. I absorbed their words, each like a pinprick in the balloon of denial I had clung to, feeling it slowly deflate. A memory resurfaced of happier days, a cruel reminder of what was gone. Yet, in that moment, I glimpsed the path to healing. "We have to work through this," I murmured, more to myself than them, acknowledging the daunting road ahead. Finally, I stepped back, ready to piece together a new beginning from these sharp, jagged shards of my past. The room emptied, leaving behind remnants of a celebration. I faced them alone, standing across love and betrayal's infamous threshold. "How long?" I demanded, my voice dipped in molten fury. Anna flinched, her shoulders drooping under the weight of this twisted love triangle. 4 months, she whispered, barely audible yet heavy with implication. Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair, more disheveled now than ever I'd seen him. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way, Em." "But it did," I snapped back, my words like shards of glass scattering across our shared past. "I trusted you both." I heard my own voice tremble, but I wasn't backing down. Anger flared as instinct overtook reason. Was it worth it, destroying everything for this? My question hung like a festering wound in the air. Neither answered. Their silence spoke of choices long made and consequences finally confronted. They were a pair bonded by betrayal. In that fragile moment, I realized I couldn't spend eternity in this anger. There needed to be more, but what? How far would I go to reclaim what was mine? I turned away, a storm of thoughts swirling in my mind. How could they do this? I needed answers, and closure, something to dull the heartache. I ended up in my room, the bed unmade from the morning chaos. I sat down, feeling the weight of their betrayal sink in deeper. Missing the comfort I'd once known, my thoughts drifted to happier times. A photo of us laughing together caught my eye, mocking the present reality. Suddenly, the door creaked open, snapping me out of my trance. Anna stood there, hesitant, with tears in her eyes. "Can we talk?" I glared at her, battling between hearing her out or shutting the door on whatever excuse she'd muster. "Fine, talk," I said, cold and distant. She started to cry, words stumbling out about love, guilt, and regret. I watched, feeling torn between empathy and rage. "I never wanted this, Em," she choked out through sobs. "I was lonely, and it just happened." Her justification sounded pitiful to my ears. I didn't know if I believed her. Was she really lonely or just selfish? Her sobs echoed as I tried to understand the mess. Mark came in, seeing the two of us. He looked torn, wanting to fix everything, but knowing it was beyond repair. "I screwed up," he admitted. I felt a rush of mixed emotions, almost pitying them. But then my anger surfaced again. "You both did," I spat, unable to let go just yet. Leaving them behind, I needed air. I walked out onto the balcony, the cool night wind hitting my face, slightly soothing the turmoil within. The city lights seemed distant, almost foreign to my pain. I wondered if healing was even possible. How do you move on from this? I heard footsteps behind me. Mark joined me, his face almost apologetic. "I wish I could take it back." Words that meant nothing now. I didn't respond at first. My heart battled my mind, wondering if forgiveness was even on the table. The past months played like a cruel joke. "You can't," I finally said, my voice cold. "What's done is done." The words left my lips like lead, sinking deep into the silent night. He seemed hollowed out by my words. Our relationship, once a foundation of trust, lay shattered. Could it ever be rebuilt? Anna joined us, her eyes red and swollen. The three of us stood silently, the night wrapping us in an eerie disquiet. Should I leave it all behind? The silence stretched, their regret evident but still feeling hollow to me. I realized I didn't need their explanations. I needed freedom from this pain. Without another word, I turned my back on them. The choice was made. I would find myself again, away from their shadows. Inside, the room felt different, like a halfway point between what was and what could be. I was ready to start over. I packed my bag, quick yet thoughtful. Each item represented a piece of my past, my strength, and my future. I was ready to reclaim myself. With one last look at the room, I stepped outside. Each step felt like shedding an old skin, moving toward healing, even if it meant alone. The night air welcomed me, cool and rejuvenating. I closed the door behind, leaving remnants of betrayal and pain. Time to heal, regardless of the struggles ahead. Days were a whirl of unthinking mornings and nights, haunted by conversations that never happened. I answered work mechanically, hoping for closure that remained elusive. Anna's messages, "Please, can we talk?" pierced my consciousness, mixing longing with dread. I avoided confronting emotions that threatened to overwhelm. Running became my escape, pounding out frustration on the pavement. Yet even in rhythmic peace, Mark's presence lingered like an unresolved painting. The phone vibrated with urgency, Mark asking to meet. His pleading voice tugged on the remnants of our relationship. Despite reservations, I agreed to meet Mark. The open air felt freeing, removing the weight of past walls. Mark appeared, his silhouette against the setting sun. Once a figure of promise, now shadowed, uncertain if we could untangle our past. Our conversation began hesitantly, words dripping with unresolved tension. I wondered about the strength left in both of us to face old wounds. Mark's apologies were sincere, his voice trembling. I couldn't distinguish between genuine regret and lingering doubts. I shared my anger, raw, unfiltered. Each word was a weight lifted from my chest, yet fear of vulnerability gnawed at me. Silence fell. It was profound, yet too brief to offer any real clarity, emotions ready to surge again. In that quiet pause, unexpected understanding flickered. Could we rebuild what was lost, or were remnants of trust too scattered? I remembered shared laughter, the warmth of earlier days. Nostalgia tugged at me, complicating present emotions. Reality pulled me back. Mark's flawed sincerity wrestled with my reservations, a delicate dance of deception, yet truth. Mark spoke of change, promised it. His conviction was clear, but history made me wary of such pledges. I wanted to believe, was it nostalgia or genuine hope? The tension simmered, words dancing between possibilities. Our conversation slipped into shared memories, rekindling affection amidst the thorns of past mistakes. I felt drawn, yet cautious. Yet reality intruded. Distrust coded our interactions, marking them with unanswered questions. Facing haunting truths, I debated forgiveness. Could I move past suspicion and rebuild? That weight tested my resolve. Mark's own vulnerability, a crack in his composure, made him human again. Could we find peace in exposed frailties? A fragile bridge began to form, a tentative truce made of words less sharp and looks more earnest. A sudden laugh broke the tension, a moment of unexpected release and recognition that brought warmth. That laugh, a spark ignited amidst the rubble, weaving a delicate path forward. Could simplicity unravel complexity? As night descended, echoes of hope whispered in the dark, promising gentle steps despite the past's tempest. Yet uncertainty remained. Was our connection genuine, or a comforting illusion forged by fading light? Mark's eyes held a rare earnestness. Broken promises still loomed, but could I trust this fragile sincerity? Silence returned, but now it shimmered with potential, whispers of a tentative bond laced with mystery. I discovered a semblance of trust, that unexpected feeling, fragile yet present. It whispered of possibility. We parted with smiles, tentative bridges crossed under stars that whispered promises of clearer tomorrows. I walked away, the weight lifted, our conversation a delicate dance of deception overcome by truth. The evening's truths settled like echoes, freeing me from past ghosts, yet leaving me pondering future steps. Sitting in the cafe, I watched my coffee cool while Mark's words hung heavily between us. His voice was cautious, each word chosen with care. "I loved you, Emily," he said, sounding lost. It struck me as tragic, how disconnected we had become over time. The word "lost" echoed in my mind, mingling with my suspicions. I needed to address the specter of betrayal looming over us. "And Anna?" I probed, feeling the urgent need to understand the true depth of Mark's infidelity. Mark looked down, a shadow crossing his features. "It was complicated," he confessed, his words as empty as my heart. Complicated wasn't enough. It didn't justify the crack in our relationship, the betrayal that fractured everything we had. "I don't want riddles, Mark," I stated, frustration thick in my tone. "Do you want to be with her?" His silence was a loud confirmation, more convincing than any denial could be. It was a bitter pill to swallow. The truth lay bare, undeniable amidst the pretense of complexity. Human frailty had cost us everything. Around us, patrons exchanged glances, whispers hinting at the drama unfolding. I fought back tears, maintaining a stoic front. Realizing that retreat was no option, closure beckoned. It was time to decide and face the clarity of truth. I pushed back my chair, the cafe's noise ebbing and flowing. It was over, the essence of us broken beyond repair. Our history, our future, everything crumbled beneath the weight of lies. Moving forward was my only choice now. I stepped outside, the crisp air a harsh yet needed contrast to the heavy ambiance inside. Freedom mixed with sorrow. The city hustled around me, oblivious to my heartache. I felt both alone and surrounded, a paradox that seemed fitting. Every street corner felt like a point of decision, a new direction to consider, yet the weight of the past lingered. I wandered, thoughts consuming me. Mark's betrayal was like a storm cloud casting shadows over every memory. A sudden realization swept in. I deserved more than halves and complicated. I longed for wholeness, for simplicity. Hope seemed distant but achievable. I could rebuild, find my own path without betrayal's burden. Turning towards home, I felt the day's weight shift slightly. It was a brief relief, but enough to take the next step. Arriving home, the silence was both comforting and stark. It was now my sanctuary of reflection, a place to breathe. As I set down my keys, echoes of the cafe conversation lingered, yet determination overpowered despair. The phone buzzed, shattering the introspective quiet. It was a message from Anna, unexpected and unnerving. Anna's message was an apology, a confession of confusion and regret. It was both cathartic and further complicated things. Her words sparked a new narrative. I felt a strange solidarity amidst betrayal, an unforeseen ally in moving forward. Reflecting on Anna's words, I saw a path clearer. Forgiveness didn't mean acceptance of betrayal, but release from its hold. I decided to meet Anna, seeking closure through conversation, hoping understanding could release us both. Meeting at a quiet park, I felt nerves and resolve merge. The air was charged with the potential for peace. Anna arrived, sincere and open, her eyes conveying the loss and mutual hurt. Our hearts, so different, yet similarly wounded. Together we talked, sharing truths and fears. In that dialogue, I found the peace I'd been searching for, a shared understanding. I stood by the window, light casting soft shadows across my face. The apartment felt empty, yet the echoes of our shared laughter lingered like ghosts from another life. Mark was late, again. The ticking clock on the wall only emphasized his absence. I'd grown used to watching time slip through anticipation into disappointment. He finally arrived with an aura of something unfamiliar. Guilt? Regret? There was a weight about him that told stories he had yet to speak. We sat in silence, two people tethered by past warmth, now caught in an emotional standoff. The room feeling colder despite the warm lighting. "I know," I said, cutting through the silence. "Anna?" The word hung in the air, heavy and accusing, but needing to be spoken. Mark nodded, an unspoken admission that fractured the fragile peace. "It wasn't planned, Emily." His voice cracked like shattered glass, vulnerable yet earnest. His words were knives disguised as honesty. I felt them cut, but there was a strange relief in finally seeing the outline of truth beneath his facade. "Despite everything, I want you to be happy," I whispered, surprising myself with the earnestness. True emotion amidst the debris of deceit. Mark's eyes held regret, not for falling for someone else, but for the hurt it caused. I never wanted to hurt you." The words were brittle against the silence. I nodded, accepting without truly forgiving. Understanding that love sometimes dissolves, leaving only the essence of what once was. Turning away, the weight of our past began to lift, a gentle nudge toward a future not yet written. I wasn't healed, but I was no longer anchored. I watched the sky outside, gray clouds echoing my mixed emotions, but with a promising light trying to break through. For a moment, I allowed myself to remember the good times. They were bittersweet memories, now tinged with betrayal, but still a part of me. Despite the ache, a quiet strength welled within. I wasn't as broken as the day seemed to imply. I still had me, whole in my vulnerability. Mark approached, hesitant yet softer. "If there's anything you need," he began, trailing off without finishing the thought. "Thanks," I replied, offering a small smile. There was still care beneath the rubble of what had crumbled away. It wasn't enough, but it was something. There's a strength in facing the end, grounded in vulnerability. I walked away in the quiet, ready to rebuild in my own way, on my own terms. I stepped outside, the air crisp and refreshing against my skin. It carried the scent of change, of beginnings I had not dared to dream of. Mark lingered by the door, his silhouette framed by the inside light. We were both on the brink of different paths, diverging yet forever connected by the past. In his eyes was a silent goodbye, one that acknowledged the end, yet celebrated the journey. I nodded as if to say, "You too." As I walked away, a stubborn tear escaped, a farewell to what never would be. It was grief wrapped in hopefulness, fragile, yet freeing. Life's uncertainties lay ahead, vast as the open sky. I was unafraid for the first time in a while, bolstered by my newfound grace and vulnerability. Each footstep held echoes of resilience, reverberating into a future I was ready to sculpt anew. A solid foundation was forming under my feet. Even the streetlights seemed to hum a familial tune, suggesting a world still full of music and magic if I only chose to hear. I paused beside a small cafe that marked 1,000 memories, knowing it was time to make new ones in different corners of this life. The night air held whispers of adventure and untraveled paths. My heart responded, beating with an eagerness for uncharted territories. Mark would be a part of my story, but not the conclusion. I needed to write new chapters, richer, layered with this hard-won knowledge. I wouldn't forget him, but he would become a footnote, a lesson woven into the tapestry of my new life. I thought of grace, how it shaped resilience and met doubt with quiet strength. It slowly became my companion, a newfound friend on this road. Leaving behind what was, I embraced possibilities ahead. I found a sense of grace in the letting go, but also in the unknown that now felt like home. I stood at the entrance of my family home, a mid-30s woman with wavy chestnut hair cascading down my shoulders. My casual jeans and sweater felt like armor against the tension inside. Anna, my older sister, sat across the kitchen table, exuding an aura of regret. Her eyes, deep brown like mine, mirrored each other in quiet contemplation. "I know I don't deserve any understanding," Anna began with a shaky voice, her remorse evident in every word. I watched her with a mixture of apprehension and intrigue. I had rehashed this dialogue countless times in my mind, trapped between love and anger. Facing Anna was a test I wasn't fully prepared for. "You could have told me, Anna," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Relief surprising both of us as the accusation left my lips. Tears welled in her eyes, and I realized then, heartbreak was mutual. We were both caught in a web woven by our choices. "It started innocently," Anna confessed softly. Her words, like intangible threads, connected us across the divide of betrayal. The silence between us was heavy, yet it carried a flicker of our sisterhood beneath the layers of deceit. I clung to that hope. "I'm not sure I can forgive this," I admitted, offering space for reconciliation, yet marking clear boundaries for my own heart. Our conversation was a makeshift bridge, fragile but existent. It offered neither pardon nor closure, just a starting point suffused with cautious hope. We moved to the living room, a space laden with shared memories now shadowed by new tensions. I needed clarity beyond the kitchen's confines. Anna gazed at a photo of us on the mantel, lost in thoughts of a simpler time. Her eyes told stories only sisters could understand. "I'm scared too," I confessed, breaking the contemplative silence. Vulnerability wrapped around us, forming a connection in the shared fear of the unknown. Anna nodded, understanding without words, the gravity of our predicament sinking in. We were both stepping into uncharted emotional territory. I watched her fingers trace the pattern on the couch, a simple gesture laden with unspoken words. We were cautiously exploring reconciliation. Our past conversations echoed in my mind, the laughter, the fights, the secrets shared under bed covers. I longed for that simplicity again. Anna began to recount her side, moments that built the chasm now between us. I listened, this time with intention, trying to understand the unfamiliar narrative. Despite the pain, her honesty drew me in. It was a story I hadn't wanted to hear, but now craved for closure and healing. I broke down briefly, the wave of emotions finally crashing over me. The pain, the betrayal, it all felt overwhelming in that moment. Anna reached out, hesitated, then touched my shoulder, a small gesture that held more meaning than any word she could have offered. Anna's unexpected touch sparked a realization. There might still be room for forgiveness, however fragile it seemed. I stood, walked to the window, and stared out at the familiar street. Each house held memories which now held bittersweet meanings. The rustle of leaves outside matched the stirring uncertainty inside me. I saw Anna approaching in the glass reflection, her resolve clear. Anna stood beside me, our eyes meeting in the reflection. We both knew it was time to confront the truth and the path forward. I turned to face her fully, no longer hidden behind reflections. "Let's try," I proposed, the words carrying the weight of tentative peace. Anna's nod was a silent agreement, both a promise and a prayer for change. We stood still, committing silently to our unspoken pact. We sat back on the couch, the conversation shifting to lighter memories. These were baby steps back to normalcy, but monumental nonetheless. Each laugh was cautious, but genuine, a balm to our aching souls. I realized we were rediscovering the joy buried beneath our recent trials. While trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight, small intentions were already laying the groundwork. I could sense our sisterhood healing at a slow but loyal pace. As I took in our surroundings, the past and present overlapped, allowing for a fresh slate sprinkled with tenderness and tentative trust. In the days that followed the breakup, life slowed down dramatically. I focused on basics like sunlight through windows and the comforting crunch of toast on quiet mornings, rebuilding myself piece by piece. Mark and Anna drifted into the background of my life, their presence now distant. I felt like I was writing my own story, finally free from their hold. One day I found an unexpected voicemail from Anna. Her voice was apologetic, acknowledging the pain I'd felt. It wasn't a plea, just a shared truth. Anna's words weren't about forgiveness, but a raw acceptance of our reality. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was more like finding solid ground amid the chaos. I embraced moving on. Every small moment, like breathing in crisp air, became an act of resilience and renewal. Not all stories end perfectly, but I realized I could rewrite mine. The idea of new beginnings was comforting, like a fresh page waiting to be filled. A simple walk in the park became a ritual of reflection. I felt connected to the world and to myself as never before. As I sat on a park bench, I imagined a future filled with possibilities. I had the pen, I could draw the lines of my own story. Then, an unexpected shift occurred. A familiar face approached. Mark. Part of me braced for confrontation, while another hoped for peace. Mark stopped just short of my bench. We stood in silence, the past hanging heavily between us. I felt nerves and, oddly, an inkling of closure. "I'm sorry," Mark finally said, his voice softened by sincerity. It was a clumsy, heartfelt apology that I hadn't expected but oddly needed. I realized his apology helped, but it wasn't everything. I had already begun healing on my own, and this was just another step forward. We talked for a while, a bittersweet conversation marking an end to our chapter. Both of us knew our paths had diverged for a reason. As Mark left, I didn't feel emptiness, but rather a fullness, an understanding of what had been and the promise of what could be. Later, I visited my favorite cafe, sitting by the window. Comforted by familiar faces and sounds, I felt at peace with my solitude. I wrote in my journal more often, each entry a testament to my growth. Every word flowed freely, bringing clarity and closure. On quiet nights, I'd reflect on the indelible memories, no longer painful but part of the tapestry of my stories. I learned to embrace the places marked with memories, no longer haunted but cherished. I was creating new memories with every step I took. An email from Anna arrived one morning. It held no new apologies, just a sincere wish for my happiness. It felt like a goodbye gift, without bitterness. With Anna's email, I felt a significant chapter closing gracefully. I responded with gratitude for the experiences, wishing her well in return. Standing in my doorway, I looked at the home that had seen my transformation. It was no longer a place of heartache, but a sanctuary of growth. On a whim, I took a small trip by myself. It was liberating, a chance to celebrate how far I'd come and dream of what was next. The journey, filled with moments of sublime solitude, reminded me that I was more capable than I'd ever realized. I finally understood my own strength. Returning home, I felt alive with purpose and possibility. I had let go of the past, embracing the vast unknown with open arms. It wasn't just closure that I found, but a deeper connection to myself and to life. There's power in choosing your own path, I learned. I dedicated more time to my passions, and they flourished. It was the kind of growth that feels like spreading wings for the first time. Friends noticed the change, mentioning the newfound glow I carried with me. Their warmth and support became pillars in my journey of renewal. I kept the memories not as burdens, but as stories that shaped who I was becoming. I've learned to embrace them without losing myself. I realized that closure isn't a destination, but an ongoing journey. What mattered was the strength I found along the way, and it became my compass. As I watched the sunset paint the sky, I knew I'd rewritten my story, not defined by loss, but blossoming with promise and renewal. Time moved us forward, meandering like a river. Those heart shards softened, now tiny mosaics of wisdom etched into my soul. I embraced this newer self, no longer chained by past promises, but sculpted by the resilience drawn from breaking free. The future stretched open like an inviting road, colors vibrant and undiscovered. Laughter, maybe love again, tinged with clarity from past scars. Dinner with family brought warmth, a room filled with the comforting hum of familiar voices and clinking cutlery. Anna was there, her hope like a fragile bird, expressed through cautious smiles and gestures of tentative peace. Forgiveness was yet to fully bloom, but started growing in the fertile ground of understanding. Bonded by the belief time heals but doesn't forget, we found love can share space with disappointment. Facing the setting sun, I felt thankful for the unchosen journey, embraced for its lessons and resilience. The path was mine to tread. Breathing in golden light, the past laid behind, a new horizon awaited eagerly. The horizon was a blank canvas of endless possibilities, whispers of hope threading through the dusk air. With a heart whole again, I embraced every imperfect moment and the promise of internal peace. Life reimagined, not by what I lost, but by the strength gained through all I'd endured. Every day was a new chance to define me, igniting joy and strength from deep within. I now saw potential in small interactions, every encounter colored with newfound depth and understanding. Laughter, I rediscovered, was still a part of me, now ringing with honesty and depth. Even moments of isolation were lighter, filled with introspection rather than loneliness. My social world expanded. People brought unanticipated warmth and connection, sparking joyous shared stories. Learning to trust in others, each face became a part of my story, weaving connections anew. Some days, quiet reflection was enough, a peaceful alignment with the world, profound in simplicity. Family mattered more now, bonds strengthened by shared moments and tender reconciliation. Surprisingly, an old friend called out of the blue, opening unexpected doors to reminisce and heal. Through shared memories, we unearthed parts of me long forgotten, rekindling bonds once lost. Revelations surfaced, deepening connections, revisiting past choices through fresh, compassionate eyes. Returning home, I found comfort in recounting laughter shared and tales retold. In moments of silence, the past no longer haunted, but guided with gentle reminders of strength. Hope lingered, tangibly present, entwined with each waking dawn and comforting dusk. I discovered a new rhythm, living with purpose, every choice deliberate, each step a dance to my own tune. Each day concluded with gratitude, the soundtrack of my life, a lilting melody of resilience. From once broken pieces, I crafted a mosaic of experience, whole and shining, reflecting a rich tapestry called life. And so, I began anew each morning with hope renewed, breathing life into dreams waiting just beyond.